Welcome to the shift, seeker. This is not a video to put in the background to do the dishes, sweep the floor as you hear it. This is a video to pay attention to sit down and focus. So now that I have your attention, thank you. My name is Morgainne. Happy to have you if you're new. Happy to have all of you. 29 degrees of Virgo, the last degree of every constellation, because every constellation is made of 30 degrees, 0 to 29, altogether forming 360. We just had a month ago a new moon in Virgo at the 0 degree, the very first degree. Then we had a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, 15 degrees, that's the middle. Now, as I'm recording this, we're having a new moon partial solar eclipse, again in the sign of Virgo, at the last degree, the 29th degree. Across from that, we have sitting Saturn at 28 degrees of Pisces and Neptune with an opposition that is out of sign at 0 degrees Aries. Now, for those of you who don't understand these terms and it goes above your head, it's okay. Stick through this because the point is what it's telling us. The point is not the mechanism and the technicalities of astrology. And I will dive into what it is that it's telling us. But it's an opportunity to understand why and how in relation to the planets and constellations and cosmic events. This is a very potent, historic, significant turning point. In history books, they will write about the events of this time. Virgo and Pisces, they are the axis of reality and spirituality, matter and energy, the body versus the divine, the soul. I should not say versus because they're intertwined. Virgo symbolizes that reality. Pisces symbolizes that divinity. The only way to truly bring these magnanimous aspects of life in integration, in understanding, and in harmony is by operating on the scale of truth. Objective, complete, wholesome truth. In Kabbalah, we have the word, which is the esoteric system of Judaism. We look at the word emet, which is truth, Hebrew for truth, emet, and see how that connects to the aspect of complete and wholeness truth. Because truth can be subjective. Every single person's being, singular experience in the world gives them a subjective understanding of truth. However, that is not the whole of truth. Truth in and of itself does have an objective reality from which it streams to the perspectives, the subjectivities of personal truths in relation to that. However, it still exists objectively, and it's coming through in the word of emet, which is Hebrew again for truth. Now, how is this connecting? In Kabbalah, every Hebrew letter has a meaning, has a frequency, and it actually does have a frequency. When you say the word Aleph, which is the first letter in the word emet, aka truth, if you measure the frequency or if you're able to see it, it actually does form the shape of the letter energetically. It's not a created language, it's a discovered language from the divine. So that first letter, Aleph, is also the first letter in the word emet, is also the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The 0 degree of Virgo. Virgo also rules communication, language. Then we have mem, emet. Mem is like M. In the Hebrew alphabet, mem, which is the second centered middle letter of the word emet, is also the middle letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And then taf, like T, like the sound T, taf, emet. That is the last letter of the 3 letters in the word emet, aka truth. And it is also, taf is also the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. So of the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, we have the first aleph, middle mem, last taf, which aleph, mem, taf form emet, spell emet, truth. Truth has to be wholesome and complete with the process of all, beginning, middle, end, and everything in between. The 0 degree, the 15th degree, the 29th degree. First, middle, last. So this month of end of August 2025 through September 2025, with its lunar cycles, the first new moon, the letter Aleph, the beginning of truth, the second full moon eclipse, 15th degree, the letter Mem, middle aspect of truth. And now the new moon partial solar eclipse in Virgo, 29th degree, the letter Taf. Now, don't try to necessarily make connections between the numbers and the letters. That's a different story. I'm just showing you the equivalence and what God is trying to tell us, the codes that are coming through from this cosmic events. So this time period has showcased us or has initiated and catalyzed the ultimate truth, beginning, middle, ending. Because if you skipped stages, let's say you skip the middle and you jump to the end and you don't completely finish up the work, you're just almost there. You will always be almost, but never quite. The last letters of the Hebrew alphabet prior to the letter Taf is Kuf, Resh, Shin. If you twist them around, the word sheker is spelled, and sheker in Hebrew is lie. So when you skip stages, you get almost to the end, almost to the end goal, almost to completion, to wholenessness, to oneness, but you never are truly there because it doesn't reach the taf, the last letter. So this time period is telling us no more skipping stages, no more lies. Anything that is a partial truth, aka a whole lie, will be exposed, would be dismantled. Now, this is a process initiated by this time, but the house of cards is starting to collapse. The domino pieces are starting to fall. And whether things happen fast or slow, that will vary in different aspects of our life and in the lives of the collective and of humanity, but it nonetheless is happening. Now, to further strengthen the concept of this is divine authority. Across from this new moon solar eclipse at 29th degree sits in Pisces again at 28 degrees Saturn and at 0 degrees Aries Neptune. Saturn and Neptune are both magnanimous aspects of divinity. Saturn would be kind of like the Virgo aspect, the matrix, the reality, the karma, the samsara, the cause and effect, consequences to actions. And Neptune is just the ethereal, infinite, divine spirit, God, cosmos, the multiverse. And they're both sitting there together. One at the last degree, at almost the last degree, 28 degrees of Pisces, which is the last sign, very karmic planet, Saturn, in a very karmic sign, Pisces, the last sign in the cycle of the zodiac, beginning with Aries, ending with Pisces. So it's doing the work. Saturn is really, and it's retrograding. It's kind of finalizing the work. And soon Neptune will enter it as well. And then the process would really start echoing. And I will go into details of how I see it manifests to the collective on Earth. Bear with me. So retrograding in those last degrees of Pisces, it's really finishing up, closing up loose ends, karmic ones, delivering consequences, good or bad, karma or moksha and dharma, right? It could be liberation for some of you that have been really in alignment with truth, with emet, that have not been skipping stages, that have not been selling out for the sake of jumping ahead based on greed, selling out yourself, selling out others, selling out your values, just to get ahead, just to succeed. Oh, it's really popular online to hate on the Jews and people, it's a clickbait and people just love it. I'm going to do that. Oh, something's coming for those creators, that's for sure. So if you've done the good emet, the good truth, this could be great. This could be moksha. This could be liberation. This could be ascending. And I don't mean, God forbid, by being unalived. I mean, in this life. Although that could be that as well. I don't presume to say each case, you know. Or if not, those who have been skipping stages and operating from lie, now consequences arrive and things have to change. They must shift. So say Saturn and Neptune. So say the gods. So say God. Whatever understanding you have of what God is, by the way. And it forms a kite, meaning it's also, sorry, I don't want to conflate different astrological events right now, so I want to make sure. So we have at the end of group. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. It is happening, but I don't want to confuse things, and it's just going to make the conversation a lot broader and bring forth other aspects. And I don't want to talk about other things. I want to talk about this one, so never mind that. So, Virgos and Pisces energy, archetype, and signs are the stars of this show. And not just on a singular level, but also in what these signs, what the archetypes represent in the collective, which I went into. So now, how does it play out? Religion. Pisces is also religion. Virgo is medicine women and people of faith, right? Virgo is the healing from the earth. Pisces is the healing from the cosmos. Virgo is the wisdom of the earth. Pisces is the wisdom of the cosmos, but they're interconnected. They're inseparable. Different condensities to the same thing, different expressions to the same thing. You can meditate and take medicine for a condition, right? So it's going to play out with the way I see it. and I don't enjoy it. First of all, we're already seeing this, a spiritual awakening. It plays out in religion. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, who was a devout Christian, who carried the stream of Christ consciousness. So, regardless on whether you connect to the dogma of the religion of Christianity or not, even if you're just or generally connected to Christ consciousness, to Yehoshua, that's what he expressed in his life and in his work. Now, it's not to say that you should have agreed with everything he said, most of it or some of it. That's your business. But nonetheless, that is where he came from, and that was the nature of his work. Now, if you have strong feelings that are negative about him, ask yourself, have you truly listened to his words? Or did you have talking heads on your screen telling you to hate him? Because if you let someone tell you who to hate and you don't bother verifying, and you just carry that sentiment, that negative sentiment, I assure you, you're not doing spiritual work. And I assure you, you are not coming from a place of awareness, higher mind, consciousness. Vilification and demonization, that's witch hunts. That's persecution. I'm sure you don't like these things, maybe even speak against these things. So it's important to watch ourselves with what we do, because values should be collective to everything, applicable to everything. If your ideology makes you run over or dismiss your values, then what is the ideology really worth? Focus on your values. And then it will be very easy for you to either be loyal to an ideology because it applies to the values that you hold up, that you care about, or it will be very easy for you to completely let go of an ideology because you're realizing it doesn't reflect your values. If you have to sell your values to stay loyal to an ideology, that ideology might not be, or probably isn't, in alignment with your values or what you claim to be your values. And you need to reflect on that. Values is not the thing that cause historic evils. It's ideologies in the name of supposed values. In the name of teaching truth, I shall lie. No. In the name of teaching unity, I shall divide. No. If your true value is truth, if your true value is unity, you will understand that that is a contradiction, that is just lip service, that it's not in service of the values, but it's in abuse and usage of these values to sell the wine of delusion. So look within yourself. Never mind the group that you're a part of, be it religious, political, whatever. Look within yourself. Are you often finding yourself selling your own values or not living by those values to remain steadfast, loyal, connected to the ideology that you're a part of that allegedly represents those values? So Charlie Kirk was operating from Christ consciousness. His martyrdom, and I will go to the word martyr in length because it's really, really important, because most people um, are now talking about it and invoking it, and you're going to start hearing this word again and again and again. And I want to give you good, informative context so that you know how to decipher and understand what's going on so that you're not misled. Okay? But nonetheless, his martyrdom has lit the torch of the reawakening of emit, of actual truth, that is beginning, middle, ending, the whole cycle, not skipping stages, doing things properly, in alignment, right? So there's alignment between values and your ideology. There's no self-deceit, there's no self-gaslighting, there's no excuses that you make for yourself, to excuse reasons that you give yourself to excuse why you're doing things that you should not be doing to people, or behaving in a way you should not be behaving, and you're doing so in the name of what? Is it in the name of your values, or is it in the name of an ideology of some sort? That's yours to answer. So it ignited that, and it's in alignment with the 0, the 15, the 29, with the Aleph, the Mem, the Taf. Today, as I speak, Charlie's being brought to burial. It's his funeral. And I got to see some of the speeches. And it is very intense, very God oriented, very belief oriented. It's we're done hiding what we believe in. Now, I'm not a Christian, right? I wear the Star of David. I'm also a Buddhist. This is not about per se my religion. I'm looking at this objectively, and I can also really, really cherish and honor the beauty of Christianity. As a witch, as a wise woman, the Catholic Church has persecuted me. As a Jew, the Catholic Church has persecuted me, but that was centuries ago. Things have changed. And now there is a desire or a movement or an attempt to follow through Christ consciousness in relation to the religion, and more in alignment with where it's birthed from, Christianity, which is Judaism. The what you know is the old, what many know as the Old Testament, is the Torah translated from Hebrew to English, and then have a sequel written to it, aka the New Testament. Islam, the same thing. It bases itself on Judaism. It follows Israelites' prophets as their own prophets, but it wrote a sequel of their own. Both claimed to be the Messiah of the Jews. Muhammad from Islam claimed to be the Messiah of the Jews, but he wasn't accepted by the Jews as their Messiah. Christ, Yehoshua, who was a Jew, Muhammad was not. He was Jewish. He said that he was the Messiah of the Jews. So Christians follow him as the Messiah of the Jews. Muslims follow Muhammad as the Messiah of the Jews, neither of which the Jews accept as their Messiah. The Jewish people are still waiting for their Messiah. But that's a theological conversation I'd rather not digress to, just to give you the understanding. So, from Christianity's standpoint, what is happening now is an understanding of its own religion from a very wholesome truth based, right? It doesn't ignore the Aleph and the Mem of the Christianity, which is Judaism, in relation to Christianity that now looks, and then the continuance, the furthering on for it, from its perspective, is from the Mem to the Taf, the wholesome aspect of Emet. Okay, we can't just look at the Old Testament. We have to understand I'm sorry, we can't just look at the New Testament. We have to understand the Old Testament, because it's the bedrock, the skeleton, the faith, the everything, pretty much, on which the New Testament is written and continued. So that's what you're seeing now with Christianity. If you listen to some of the speeches and just listen to Charlie's words and the way he spoke, he was a great advocate for the Jewish people, for Israel. He was very informative, very knowledgeable. He was able to break down and disperse all the blood libels, all the lies, all the propaganda, all seemingly in the name of value of caring for human rights, but not really. He was able to break down where it's truly stemming from, which is just good old hatred against the Jewish people, which in fact is good old hatred against oneself. Because anti-Semitism is the scapegoat Jew. It's where society just, and humanity and individuals and groups just put all their own shadows that they won't face onto the Jewish people, who serve as a mirror to humanity, a reflection to what one does. There's that phrase, show me what you blame the Jew for, I'll tell you what it is that you do. And it plays out consistently throughout history and today. If you look at people who persecute the Jewish people, then and today, everything they have and still accuse the Jewish people of, they themselves actively do. From actually white colonizers accusing the indigenous Jews of being colonizers, right? From Islam trying to take over, trying to implement the caliphate and the Sharia law onto the world while accusing the Jews of doing so. There's a lot of deception, deflection of different peoples, different groups, different beliefs, different organizations, different countries with their varied history and what it is that they have sinned with or still do that deflect your attention from them and their actions into a scapegoat. And Charlie was brilliant at pointing that out and showing that and breaking it down. It's not the only reason he was assassinated, but it is one of the reasons he got assassinated. He was very effective in delivering the truth in its wholeness and exposing those who skip stages. Now, no one sees themselves as evil, right? They see themselves as martyrs. To every light, there's a shadow. So I digressed a little bit. I'm going to talk about martyrism now, but then I hopefully I'll remember to come back to the conversation of how things are going to play out in reality, which is to do a lot with religion. So there's the Christian term of martyrism that you can think of, where one sacrifices themselves for the greater good, right? For awakening, for ascension, for information to be exposed. They give their life or their well-being for humanity or for their people. That's the light aspect of martyrdom. But to that, there is a shadow that is playing out in the Middle East. I grew up in Israel, where during the first Intifada and the second Intifada, you had Palestinian suicide bombers go on school buses and blow up children, go to cafes, blow up cafes, clubs, run in the streets and just murder innocent Israelis for being Jewish. In the name of martyrdom, they would refer to themselves as martyrs. In their society, they are considered martyrs because they killed Jews. That's not martyrdom, that's psychopathy. But from their belief system, because of Muhammad's very famous prophecy, it's Hadith 2.922. And I'm paraphrasing here. And this is not what I'm saying, this is certainly not what I'm believing. It's a quote from the Quran, from one of Muhammad's hadiths, where he says, and the world in Islam would not know peace until Muslims rise and fight the Jews and kill the Jews. And the Jews will run and hide. And they will hide behind rocks and trees. And the rocks and the trees will call, Muslim, oh Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him. Now you can go into the fancy interpretations of it when you try to avoid accountability for these very hateful words. And that's just one example out of many. But when you have people believe that scripture, believe that God wants a people to have their lives taken, that that's somehow holy, then they would consider that as martyrdom. So let me be very, very clear. Unjustly taking the life of innocent people in the name of whatever cause or whatever belief you have, that is not martyrdom. That is just psychopathy and murder. And if you believe in hell, it will take you straight to the hell that you believe in. Martyrdom is not about hurting. It's not about taking a life. If you're a suicide bomber and you go on a bus, on a school bus, and you blow up Jewish children just because you believe it will get you a lot of virgins in heaven, first of all, you're not doing it for God, you're doing it for yourself. It's greed. You want virgins in heaven. No God will tell you this, but a devil. And you got to be demonic, and there got to be some frequency of evil within you in order to be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to kill a lot of innocent children, and that will get me virgins in heaven. And that would mean I'm serving God. No, 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 that's serving Satan. So if it means to hurt other people and taking other people's lives in the name of so-called martyrdom, it's not martyrdom. It's the shadow delusion of so-called martyrdom. And the reason it's very important for me to explain this is because most of my viewers may be from Westerners. You have a different understanding of martyrdom, and you don't know that half of the globe believes that martyrdom is something completely different. And that's the thing that is going to come up to the surface. Martyrs versus shadow of martyrs. You've got to understand the difference. It's really important. So currently, both types of martyrs are going to rise. The true martyrs that are fighting a spiritual war in the name of light, meaning to help other people, to preserve life, to honor life, to love one another and to love life, to not view oneself as supreme to another, because you can only hurt others in the name of a God, of a so-called God, if you see yourself as supreme to another, if you see your ideology as supreme to another, if you see your religion as supreme to another, if you see anything within yourself as superior to another. Supremacy never ends well. I hope we agree on that. So there will be a religious uprise. The way I see it, it's not going to be limited to that. We're going to see it in many different types of scales out there that play out the polarities. But mostly, there's going to be between the religion of Christianity and the religion of Islam. Islamism, should I say, to be more exact. And Westerners who were not aware of what goes on in the Middle East are going to start being aware. Middle Easterners not aware of the opposite. Everything is going to collide. So, for example, if you had so far a lot of news from the Middle East only spoken in Arabic, right? And then if the same people that would say X things to the audience in the Middle East will say XYZ, then they will go in Arabic, for example, then they will go to America or to the West and on interviews and on conversations with leaders, they will say other things, different things in English or in the language of the Western country that gives a complete different impression of what the actual intent is. Now, translations will start becoming more famous. We have those. If you can go watch Memri. Memri is a channel that translates Middle Eastern news from Arabic to English. Now, this is not consistent black and white. There's complexities. There's good and there's evil, there's light and there's shadow in every place in the world, in every religion, in every belief system, in every group of people. The individuals do what the individuals do. I'm referring to the ideologies as a whole, where they stand. The ideology of Islamism is very dark and very dangerous. And there are people who are waking up to it and are not playing into it and are not following that anymore from the Middle East. So it's not about the individuals or a race or an ethnicity. It's about the ideology and what happens when you believe that said ideology. What happens is by default, you act upon it. And then that ideology becomes a representation of oneself based on their choices to follow it or not, right? So there's going to be mass awakenings and a lot of, individuals kind of jumping ship to the other. So individuals, for example, in Christianity that are not, or from the West, I shouldn't just say Christianity, but from the West, who are not really in alignment with Christ consciousness, never mind the religion, Christ consciousness, unconditional love, ultimate love, but also discernment and fighting evil. We're not in the kumbaya realm, guys, in Christ consciousness. Please. Same with Buddha. So anyone under these belief systems that are presenting, that are in their essence about love and discernment, good and fighting evil. If they're not really in as an individual in alignment with that, they will jump ship to a different ideology that matches that. They will start admitting to themselves of what it is that they truly believe and maybe change groups. Or they'll realize they haven't been in alignment, they'll get a really strong reflection, and they'll change their ways and wake up into being in alignment with said values and said ideologies that they so far claimed to be a part of, but didn't, not really in actions. And there will be the other way around. Individuals that suddenly wake up to some really dark aspects of their belief system will either start, what's the word, revising it and changing the ideology to match with the times and to match with their values. Or they'll be like, okay, it's not working, I'm jumping ship and move to a different belief system or a different political group. Or, I keep saying belief, but please apply belief to religion, spirituality, politics, way of life, eating meat, not eating meat, really, really anything. So there's going to be that, and then there's going to be a clash as well. I don't think we're done with wars. Some will be done with, some will continue. I think the actual ease and true peace will come in the 2030s. But we are in 2025. This is where the scale's starting to tilt towards healing, toward a better direction, toward awareness, toward understanding friend from foe. Because so far you had a lot of foes claiming to be your friends under a guise. They would say the things that you wanted to hear, tell you what they know you want them to say. But it would be just smoke and mirrors to get you to still support them. Right? Because if they knew that because if you knew, they know that if you knew the truth, you wouldn't still support them. But the masks are going to fall because there's recognition now, much recognition, a wave of recognition amongst people who were led astray, were deceived by delusion and distortion, by falsities, by lies, by propaganda. It's going to be a wave of awakening. And when one realizes they've been lied to, they've been deceived, they've been played, they had their good heart and good intentions and good values used against them. When one recognizes that they have been used as a useful tool, a useful, there's the term useful idiot. I don't, it's just an easy way to explain it. When one recognizes that their good intentions have been weaponized, that creates not just frustration, but sometimes rage, anger. You're going to see it a lot. So first of all, I want to call on you to, yes, stand up. Yes, do what you need to do, but do not go to violence. This is not. We're going to see this. We're going to see violence, unfortunately. But as much as you can, try to not add to it. Try to engage as much as possible with decency and with tolerance. I'm not saying if someone, God forbid, tries to unalive you or take your life to not fight, of course. And you're going to see a lot of that. Because now that evil is no longer wearing a mask, now that it's exposed, all bets are off. They don't have anything to lose. Across the spectrum, anyone that has been operating from dark, whether they were aware of it or not, if they're still holding on to it, they're going to start lashing out and acting out. So you might have to in self-defense, and I hope not, but as much as you can, try to keep the conversation, the education, the awareness. I'm going to quote Charlie Kirk. He said, when people start talking, bad things happen, right? Divorce happen, wars happen, violence happen. We must be able to, when we stop seeing the humanity in someone we disagree with, bad things happen. And unfortunately, he foresaw his own death with that. So everything I'm saying is not because I'm encouraging you to do that. Not at all. I'm saying this because this is what I see initiated, because when energy is suppressed for so long, it's bound to explode. So there's going to be a lot of people not able to hold it, a lot of groups not able to hold it. There's going to be, unfortunately, violence. But I want you to be as much as you can, not to stay. Peace does not mean enablement. Okay? Peace does not mean succumbing to evil. Peace does not mean feeding evil by giving yourself to it. Absolutely not. Be discerning. Separate yourself from it if necessary. Jump ship to something that does represent your belief system, that does represent your values. I'm just saying, try to do so with words, please. And tone down the volume of the conversation. It's going to get very hard. It's going to get very emotional. It's going to get very intense. This is where you get to practice your practice. Do what needs to be done, and don't act like the shadow martyr. Don't hurt people in the name of what you believe. Save people, help people. I'm not encouraging anyone to be a martyr for that matter, and I think the word has been used too much, but it is very applicable to Charlie. And another thing that is coming through is MIRIAM HAMAGDALIT, Mary of Magdalene, in Erica as an archetype. I'm not saying that that's who she is. I'm saying she's also a stream of that. There are many women who are a stream of MIRIAM HAMAGDALIT, okay? There are men who are a stream of Yoshua, and vice versa. But Miriam is the divine feminine in this um, theology. Yoshua is divine masculine in this theology. And we can find other characters in other theologies, of course. You know, we have Buddha and the Yasodhara. We have Moshe and Tzipora. But Erica, Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow, she is going to rise as a Miriam Magdalit's stream of consciousness rising, an aspect of her soul. And she's going to continue his legacy. But she won't be stopped this time, because Miriam was stopped by toxic patriarchy, by certain disciples of Yoshua who wanted to usurp her, because she was supposed to actually be she was his true successor and lover and counterpart. She was a teacher in her own right, not just a disciple, not just a follower. And Yeshua was very vocal about it and very clear about it in his life. But then some of his disciples, men, took it upon themselves to want to feel more important and have usurped her. And you see it play out in the scripture. Erica will be the woman who continues the work. And maybe that archetype will play out. Maybe she'll have some men around her, perhaps in his organization, that will try to kind of be like, we should do it. We know better, da da da, whatever. So, Erica, I doubt that you're watching this, but if you do, don't let that happen. This is the time for the revival of Miriam HaMagdalit, for the divine feminine Christ consciousness, to continue the torch. And this doesn't just apply to women within Christianity, Wicca, Judaism, any belief, Buddhism, Hinduism, any belief system, Sufism, Druze, you know, any belief system that operates from heart and love and light and doesn't seek to conquer and subdue others, that's the best sign for you. Reality wise, their actions, not the propaganda of what they supposedly do. If you look at the reality, numbers don't lie, propagandists do. Numbers do not. Look at the facts. No, TikTok does not teach you the facts. So, the awakening of the divine feminine, Virgo, 0 degrees, 29 degrees. It's the maiden, the medicine woman, the virgin, Miriam, Virgin Mary and Miriam HaMagdalit, two different types of women, but still the same archetype. So there's the 0 and the 29 degree that is both had new moons, right? The birth, the rebirth of the divine feminine, represented by this Virgo archetype. We had in the middle full moon eclipse, 15 degrees in Pisces. The masculine is stepping down, not to disappear. The toxic masculinity is stepping down, but the love-based masculinity that honors the divine feminine, where to understand that it's equal work, it's yin and yang, gives her room to rise. And this is what this time frame is catalyzing and triggering. This has been a very intense video. I hope if you're here, I salute you for sticking through this. And I hope you'll be carrying the good torch of light and truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. Yes, secrets and omission from people who seek to cause us harm in protection and self-defense. Of course, sometimes it's necessary, but you've got to be very, very honest with yourself. Is that truly what you've been doing? Is that truly what you're asked to do by your leaders? This is a time to look at things through in accuracy, okay? And in a lot of discernment, the Virgo discernment. No more blind faith from the shadow aspect of Pisces that enables persecution. Discernment, making sure, looking at the details, looking at the information, looking at the, the pieces of the puzzle that form the big puzzle. Virgo. I just want to make sure there isn't anything else I should put in this video before I close it up. Thank you for being here. Please share your thoughts with me. I'm curious to know what you think, because I've seen a lot of videos about this uh, topic, about these eclipses, about this time. I haven't heard someone speak of this. I've been ruminating on this for the past couple of days, and it's been kind of cooking and processing through my mind and through my system. And now I felt like it's the time to bring it out. And it's serendipitous right on the eclipse. So I feel like this is guided. I know that this is guided. So thank you, Spirit and guides, for trusting me to deliver this message. I hope I did you. I hope I served well, and I hope I served you well. Um, yeah, yeah. I think that's it. Stay magic. Stay true. Stay free. I love you.